Welcome to this episode of The Geeky Baker. Sorry it's been so long since I have uploaded, but I've been pretty obsessed with playing Pokemon Go over the past couple of weeks. I wanted to celebrate the release of Pokemon Go with a Pokemon themed dessert. So today I'm going to be making 3 different kinds of Pokemon candy. Now you know in Pokemon Go you get candy every time you catch a Pokemon, and you need so many of the candy to evolve your Pokemon and also Stardust and candy to make them more powerful. Well, this way you can get unlimited Pokemon candy. So I'm going to show you how to make these Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur gelatin candies. This recipe is incredibly simple but really time consuming. So the first thing you're going to need is the mold. And I got this mold at Michael's. It was 70% off or 60% off or something like that because it's the end of the summer sale. So this is made by Zoku, and it is actually a freezer pop mold, but this does work with gelatin and it also works with hard candy. It comes with little sticks, as you can see. So you can actually put these on sticks too if you wanted to. I'm sure you could probably find this on Amazon or some other online site. Also, the next thing you're going to need is the gelatin of the color choice that you're going to need. So for the Charmander candy, I am using orange, and I'm also making my own white using this is the Kroger brand of gelatin, just unflavored gelatin. There's also Knox gelatin. This is just the gelatin powder. It's completely unflavored. You are also going to need, and this is the key ingredient here for making the candy look like the candy in the game. You are going to need white food coloring. I know when I first saw it, I was like, huh, white food coloring? What? Why would you need that? But it makes sense if you're trying to lighten a darker blue color or something like that. So you want to add some of this to your gelatin to make the correct color. Start slow because it's really powerful stuff. You are also going to need a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon, a 1/4 teaspoon measuring spoon, and a 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon. So you're going to need all of these because I have very precisely measured how much each one of these little cavities will hold, and the recipe and the guidelines I'm going to give you, those are going to be really the way to make it work out to be nice and striated or have the nice little layers. You're also going to need just some bowls and hot water. Those are pretty much it. You could use forks to stir it up, and if you don't have a whisk, you can also use a whisk too. But let's get started because this is so much fun. The very first thing I'm going to do is open up my package of orange Jell-O, and for the Charmander candy, it is orange and yellow layered in between. So, to make these stouter, we are going to add extra Knox gelatin, or you can get any of the, oh, look at my nails, hashtag Team Mystic. What? Okay, so you're going to need an extra teaspoon of each of these and a half. So teaspoon and a half. So 1 teaspoon there. One teaspoon there. Give it a little bit of a shake up. Now we're going to add only half of the water that you would normally add to make Jell-O gelatin. So I'm going to add a half of a cup to each of these. Half a cup of hot boiling water. You cannot use milk to make this look creamy. It has to be white food dye. And the reason why you cannot use milk is that the citric acid that is in gelatin for the flavorings and things like that is going to react with the milk, and it's going to cause your milk to curdle, and it's going to separate. And what that's going to do is drive a wedge between all of the gelatin proteins and keep them from gelling into that nice consistency that we absolutely have to have. So you want to stir this until you don't see any more bits around at the bottom. And then get it all off the sides. And then make sure you wash in between or you're going to have transference of color and you don't want that. So I'm going to get these all mixed up and then we'll be right back. Now we're going to add a ½ cup of cold water to that. And we'll give it another couple of stirs. Add a ½ cup to this one, cold water as well. And then we'll stir them up and we will get ready to assemble in just a minute. Okay, so as you can see, the candy is not clear. And if I were to put this into the mold right now, the candy, Pokemon candy, would come out clear. And I don't want that. I want it to be opaque and a little bit creamier in color. So I'm going to be adding my white dye. Be careful, this squirts out. So I'm going to start with a ½ of a teaspoon. And I might need to adjust the color. So ½ teaspoon for each one of those. And it looks like paint, but it's totally safe to eat. And it's to whiten your icing or to lighten color. So give it a stir and you will see magic start to happen. We are going to start with and I poured in water and measured how many teaspoons were in this container, and it's 7 ½ teaspoons. So what we end up with is I have broken this down and I'll show you a graphic of what that looks like, but I'm going to walk you through what each one needs to contain in it. There's going to be a lot of chilling involved in this, so give yourself plenty of time to prepare this. And you can see these kind of push out a little bit. Okay, so the Charmander candy starts with the orange on the top and the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to need a ½ teaspoon and a ¼ teaspoon of the orange. So I'm going to start with ladling in, and you want to be really, really careful with this. Okay? Don't let it drip down the sides if you can help it. All right. Now, this needs to chill for at least 10 minutes. This is the longest chilling layer. And if you're concerned about your Jell-O hardening up while you're waiting in between layers, the great thing about gelatin is you can always just pop it in the microwave for 10 seconds and give it a stir, and it'll be that nice consistency again. So don't get too concerned about it if your Jell-O hardens up. You can always very slowly melt it, a lot like you would do with a melting wafer. Mix it and then power a little bit more if you need to. But I'm gonna pop this into the refrigerator, not the freezer, refrigerator for at least 10 minutes. And then when you don't see any movement along the top, when you take it out, that means you're ready for your next layer. Now from this point out, we're gonna alternate the colors between the orange and the creamy kind of yellowy orangey color. So for the thin layers, you are going to need a 1/4 teaspoon plus a couple of drops. You just want it to completely cover the surface. So I'm going to very carefully drop in my 1/4 of a teaspoon, and then I'll go back in and add a couple drops if I need to. Most often I do. Like I said, try not to let it go down the sides. And then I found the best way to do this part is just to kind of, I'm gonna move that. Just kind of shimmy it around a little bit and you'll see it moving in there. Okay, I'm just going to go back in and add just a couple more drops to each one. So what I do is the 1/4 tablespoon, I go in and I do 1/3 of it in each one. So you end up with just a little bit extra. It's going to help you differentiate. these layers are really thin. So once you've given them just a little bit of a swirl, you're gonna put this back into the refrigerator for probably about 5 minutes, and then give your orange in the meantime about 10 seconds in the microwave and give it a stir. Then I'm gonna do the rest of this. Okay, next we're gonna go in with the exact same amount of the orange. So we're gonna use 1/4 a teaspoon. So pour in 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing that we did, where we use just a couple of extra drops of the orange in each one. Give it a swirl first after you get the initial layer down. Okay, so the middle section is a larger chunk than those two other alternating colors. So you're gonna be using an entire teaspoon full of the white mixture for the Charmander candy. So pour this one in really carefully because it seems to want to splash a little more than the others. And that way you'll get a nice thick layer of the white right in the middle, and it'll be a nice accent. Well, I forgot to film putting in that very thin orange layer right on top of the thick white layer. So it is, again, a thin layer. So you want to do 1/4 of a teaspoon plus a couple of drops, which is what I'm going to do with this white layer next. And then we are almost complete. Now for the last step of your Charmander candy, you are going to add just enough of your orange mixture in until you get to the fill line. So it's marked clearly, your fill line there. You don't want to really fill above that. So it's gonna be about a full teaspoon, maybe a little bit less, or maybe a little bit more, depending on how big those drops were that you made earlier. Now, I will tell you right now that this represents more Charmander candy than I have. I've only caught the one I started with and then one random other Charmander. I have a friend who has a Charizard. Not at all jealous, Melody. So, into the fridge for at least an hour and a half. These need to set very, very firmly. So I am gonna go ride my bike for an hour and a half or so and see what I can catch. And I will be back and we'll pop these out. Okay, so rinsed again, gonna depan. Now push forward and give it a little push and you pop right out. Okay, same with this one. Push it forward and then push straight in. Push it forward, push straight in. Push it forward, push straight in. And they pop right out. Gotta make sure that these are warm enough though. Push it in, pop straight out. I really had a great time today making these Pokemon Go candies. They're super cute, really fun. You can see all the little layers in there. It's got my little Squirtle, my Bulbasaur, and Charmander. And I chose Charmander as my starter Pokemon for this one, but I really like the Bulbasaur. He's my favorite. So anyway, now I really have to get to work because I have 400 Magikarp candies to make so that I can get a Gyarados. See you later. Bye-bye.